Dustin, for some of our viewers who might not fully understand how multifamily projects are structured, could you please take a few minutes to discuss few terms that are commonly used? For example, operator, sponsor, allocators, syndicators. It can get pretty complicated for passive investors pretty quick. Maybe we can discuss the difference between allocators, a group or someone who mainly deals with raising capital and bringing equity to multifamily deals, compared to operator, who usually manages a project, deals with debt, brings on equity, but also works with other allocators. So please discuss this topic.
So I would basically describe me as more of an allocator, because I'm not as much in the day-to-day business. Once I invest in these projects, I help with some of the design, and I mainly bring in capital and get the thing started and structured first. So I'm more of an allocator, and then I partner with the operators. So operator, like you said, is someone that manages the property day to day, and they're a very, very important, just as important as your property manager. The property manager might actually be more important, but I don't know. The property manager is super important, but the asset manager and the operator is very, very important on a day-to-day basis. And I prefer to, there's a difference between I think the higher level they are, usually they're not the operator per se, you go.
Oop, we lost your camera there.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You go to a higher level, and then, you're not involved in as much of the day-to-day operations, so you got to get a more detailed person to usually run the operations. You got to get a more communications person, a relationships-based person to do the allocation, and just all depends on what you want to do, but you need a good partner in each one of those. But like a sponsor, right? A sponsor could be an allocator or an operator. There's some of these broad terms like syndication group. That's everyone falls underneath that. So that's a very broad term. Where a syndication is it just means you get a group of people together to do a project. So you've got, say, a computer dork, and then you've got the real estate guy, and then you got the numbers guy. You got all these different personalities.
People person.
Yeah. People person, computer, you need every single aspect. I feel like you need a minimum of 3 people. You need the high level real estate person, you need the really detailed real estate person, then you need a communicator that everyone loves, because then you're going to get all your off-market deals and it's easier to raise capital. So
Exactly. And just to touch on this topic of allocators and sponsors and the relationship that exists between them, initially starting out, the plan for CPI was to be the operator. But since we're based in Canada and we deal with Canadian investors, and then we want to be able to invest in different markets of the US, and the markets change in the US, we soon realized that, hey, it might make more sense at this stage to go and seek and scout the best operators. And then the more and more time we spent in it, we realized that, hey, this is better for our investors, because we're cherry picking the best operators, best performing operators, best performing markets, because sometimes operators that are stuck in a certain market, they have asset managers, employees, contractors, they have to buy in that market to keep their employees occupied. But what happens is, in our situation, it allows us to be more dynamic, and at times the investors are confused that if there is an allocator involved, there is a kind of another person involved in a business, that there might be less profits to the investors, but the total GP profits are divided amongst the allocators, and the GP doesn't cut out an extra slice from the pie.
Yeah, no, and right, because the allocation is already, there's a slice cut out for the allocation. So whether the allocator brings in the capital or the operator, some operators are okay at raising capital because they've done it for so long. But I've found that you're either good at raising money or good at operating. They're 2 different mindsets. And I actually don't like to shift between the 2. I like to stay operating when I'm operating, and I fight going back to raise money. So I've learned that when I do have a campaign for raising money, there's no more operating during that time. I just have to raise money. So I feel like they're 2 extremely different hats. And it's such a big mind shift for me that I don't even usually want to do it unless it's a long-term project. 100%. So I do the communication level that you're going to get from an operator versus the allocation guy is going to communicate with you so much better if that's what you desire. The operator doesn't care about the customer that brought the money, and he cares about this thing performing top notch. So he doesn't care about your feelings. He just wants to make as much money as he can on this project. And whereas the allocation guy is more sensitive and communicates properly and all the stuff that an investor wants. And that's kind of how I've seen it work anyways.
Absolutely.